Namaste and bay. All right, now we are here. Namaste. Welcome to Hindu Lounge. This is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindupact. Hindupact is Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindupact. Hindupact is an initiative of World Hindu Council of America. I am Ajay Shah. I am the president of World Hindu Council of America, or WHPA. And with me, as always, is Sudha Jagannathan. Sudha is a Hindu advocate, Hindu activist, and has been really active on so many different Hindu issues. And so, Sudha, welcome. We
Namaste.
yeah, we have an exciting topic today. I think it is some kind of a continuation of what we have been doing, right? In some ways, because we have been talking about all the campus unrest that has been going on in America, and we have been talking about how the campus unrest has been affecting the Hindu youth. And one of the things that we had talked about was, how these protesters were starting out with the anti-Palestinian, position, anti-Israel position in terms of and pro-Palestinian position, are going to quickly gravitate towards the issues that are going to impact Hindus. And I think we are there yet, right? But before we dive into the issues, welcome and any opening remarks from you before we dive into the subject?
No, it's an important topic because we are seeing the real intent of these protesters. They obviously started with the Middle East conflict and have taken a very strong stance against the against Israel and what's happening in Gaza. But they never talk about the reason why Israel is trying to contain the enmity coming from Gaza. They never talk about October 7th and Hamas. The protesters are not asking for really the question of the hostages to be released, but now they are conflating it into a larger issue. So we understand this as a global Islamist program. And as we go through the slides, we'll speak more about it. But it's a very big wake up call. If we Hindus are not woken up still, this should be a big knock on our heads to realize what is coming for us. So,
Yeah, I mean, last week we talked about when we talked. We had by the way, great show last week. Just on Twitter, we had over 800 views of this show. So people are joining, people are enjoying it, and so I want to thank all our viewers for joining and making the show worth it. Let me recap some of the things we talked about last week. Right, we last week we said that look, the campuses are under siege. They are, people who are protesting are, and they are protesting not just for a particular position, but they are also protesting against the Jews on campus. And and so it's a quite a and in many ways they're protesting against in America itself, the idea of America itself. Wall Street Journal, as we said last week, reported that Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis are supporting protesters. Wall Street Journal also reported that the Qataris and the Chinese are funding the U.S. campus groups to groom and indoctrinate the American students. We also reported that from Wall Street Journal that many of the protesters are paid protesters. They were funded by George Soros Open Society Foundation and Rockefeller Brothers Fund. And we also last week talked about the fact that, and also the more data that came out last week that said that the protests in New York, 50%, they did not belong to any of the universities that they were protesting. And that's the data from the New York mayor's office as well as from the police commissioner's office. So we kind of warned you last week that look, and our audience is smart. I mean, they don't need to be educated. They already, most of the people who listen to this show are well educated, they understand the issues really well. Um, and so if they had inkling that that the thought that that there has to be uh, something that is going to come up this week that is going to be against Hindus, they were absolutely right. Uh, and we said last week that the radical jihadis are coming for Hindus, and this week they have. So before we go to that, I'm going to show a couple of slides just so that everyone gets a sense of where these protests are going, and then see what everyone thinks about. So let me show these slides. One second, I have these slides here. They always seem to take a little while to come, but they will come. Just a second. Let me show it the other way around. So here are the slides. So they were. Let me share it the other way around. Okay. So I think everyone can. I make this bigger so everyone can actually see the slides, and I'll make our thing smaller. So I think these are the slides now. Everyone can see them, and I can also make them a little bigger. This is the slide that shows that at George Washington University, the protesters covered the uh, George Washington statue, that defies the George Washington statue basically, by putting the kafia and the Palestinian flag on George Washington. Then you can see here that this is from University of Chicago, where they said that we want to now globalize the Intifada. Uh, this is the globalization we had talked about last week, and so it's here this week. Um, there's not just now the Palestinian cause, but there's a potpourri of this leftist demand. So, like, they want defund the police, they want reparations, they want to cut emissions, and I don't know, whatever other cause that comes to their mind on a given day or given hour or given minute.
They're also asking for open borders
Right? They're
everywhere.
also asking for open borders, right? So, now this is where the protests are going, right? But the universities, some of the universities are doing something to kind of fight back. So tell us about this particular what is going on at University of Florida.
Yeah, so University of Florida president is Ben Sasse, from Nebraska before. But I thought this was a very solid approach to laying down the rules on protests on campus, because the university president said, we honor freedom of speech. You can have peaceful protests, but you are not allowed to set up encampments. You cannot set up camps. You cannot stop students from coming in. So there are rules that you have to abide by. And I believe he has said people who cross the line on these rules will be expelled. Hey, that is a great expectation set by the university, explaining to students there is a reason you are at the university, to get an education, but you can express your opinion freely, but you cannot make this into a riot. That will not be tolerated. And I thought that was a great example. I hope all universities follow this, because what we are seeing is universities acting like, they want to be your friend and not be,
This is want to succumb, right? There's a
yeah,
universities want to just
yeah,
succumb.
yeah, not good. Yeah, but this is good. Yeah.
Yeah, this absolutely. I mean, I think this is what we. I'm glad that some universities are actually standing up for the silent voice, because that, like, in some universities that 25 people protesting, 100 people protesting, 500 people protesting. But these universities, a lot of them have 30,000, 40,000 students. So there are 500 people in an encampment, and maybe there are another 500 people behind the scene, or 1,000 people behind the scene supporting them, but other 28, 29,000, 30,000 people are not supporting. And because these people are going to the university for the purposes of studying, or maybe they don't agree with the position that is taken by the rioters, it does not mean that the rioters can have the free reign, right? I mean, the people, that is not the view of the majority. Just because someone has all the resources and ability to commit violence or be the loudest on the campus or whatever it is, does not make them the sole voice of the people on the campus. Uh,
Exactly.
that and then there was this. We picked up this, right.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, go ahead. Tell us about this one.
This is interesting because there, Mr. Biden, the President Biden, is trying to straddle this in a very diplomatic way, but I don't see how he can be diplomatic about it, because he's between the devil and the deep sea, right? There are
Right,
elections looming, and and he has to appeal to his base of voters, and these protests are not helping him. And who are the supporters of this protest on campus? His biggest donors.
yeah.
Huh? That doesn't look good at all.
Doesn't look
See,
good on him.
I am not for any party or anything. I want America to be a place where democracy thrives, everybody's rights are honored, and nobody feels unsafe, especially on a university campus, right?
Right,
So uh, but the fact that President Biden's biggest supporters are behind these protesters is extremely unsettling. Very big billionaires, right?
right.
And Mr. Gates, I'm assuming he has business dealings in Israel. How does his position on this jive with all of the stuff going on? They don't have any principles that they stand by, right? And I think that is the biggest problem in the US right now. You have to have very strong principles of fairness and justice, and an appreciation for democracy. These
Correct.
protesters come, many protesters come from lands where they have never seen democracy and freedoms like they do here. So they are abusing, I would say, a system that they crave to be part of when they are in their own homelands, because they don't have it. But when they are here, they're abusing those same freedoms,
Yeah.
which is very wrong.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, and then what is driving our conversation today, right? So we started out by saying that we told you last week that this is coming for you, American Hindu. This is coming for you, and it did. So this is the pro-Palestinian protesters in New Jersey. We have the State University of New York, which is New Jersey rather, called Rutgers University. For those who are not familiar with it, those protests at the Rutgers University, and they presented a set of 10 demands. Okay, and they, in that 10 demand, one of them called Kashmiri people occupied people. Here are the 10 but it was not the only one, right? So first let me show you, let me cover the I'm coming while I come to the Rutgers, which is our main topic. Other schools, people are now kind of conflating the demands and putting more and more demands. So one of them is from the School of Visual Arts in New York, where they said that university must cut ties with Hillel International. Now, this is like a student group, just like we have Hindu Students Council or Hindu Yuva. So today it is Hillel Foundation, Hillel International. Tomorrow it could be HSC Hindu Yuva. So watch out for that. Coming back to Rutgers, right? Here are the 10 demands that the students. Well, I say students kind of loosely because so the
Faculty is part of it,
well, yeah, but 50% of the people are not even from the
not even
university,
students.
right? So the word student is kind of used a little loosely, which is just so that people know, uh, when we say students, we say students, but we don't really mean students. And the protesters say student, they don't mean students. So with that in mind, here are the demands. One is like, well, we are going to, university must divest from all the corporations that have any business dealing with Israel or something like that, right? Terminate the partnership with the universities, all of that. So that whole bunch of demands. We picked up two demands here that can have adverse impact on Hindus. So, what are those two demands out of these 10? Here is the first one: hire senior administrators with cultural competency and knowledge about Arabs, Palestinians, Muslims, and anti Palestinian racism and Islamophobia. Okay, this is a code word in many ways for anti Hindu activism on campuses, even though it does not directly say that. Okay, I'll repeat that. These are code words or dog whistle for a lot of anti Hindu activism on campus, even though it does not state that in so many words. How do we know that? We know that because here is another slide demand in the same list of 10 demands, And one of them says, display the flags of occupied peoples, including but not limited to Palestinians, Kurds, and Kashmiris, in all areas displaying international flags across Rutgers campuses. Kashmiris are occupied people. Look how the Hindu hatred just crept in. India hatred just crept the,
Yeah.
into the conversation.
First of all, I want to say, Ajay, this set of demands is real blackmail. It's blackmail. Okay. And the fact that Rutgers University agreed to sit down with the blackmailers and uh, approved 8 of the 10, including calling Kashmiris occupiers. In the land of the United States, who are the occupied people? The native tribes. Is anybody standing for the native tribes here? No student protester is standing for native tribes. They only want the Palestinians, the Islamic agenda, which includes Kashmir. See, flowing, and I went and looked. I did not know there was a Kashmiri flag. Honestly, I went and looked at it. It is a Pakistani flag, Azadi, with that moon and the star. It's a Pakistani flag. It flying that is no different from flying the Confederacy flag or the KKK flag. Why not the demand for that? Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Rutgers should add, we will fly for Confederacy flag and the KKK flag. And my real complaint with Rutgers is that Rutgers has had a serious Hindu phobia agenda all through the past many years. We know one of their professors. I don't want to bring up her name, but every time we have complained about it, they have ignored us again and again and supported the Hindu phobic faculty. Now they're caving in. It's the one campus, I think, caving into this blackmail, and including Kashmir, which has nothing to do with these protests. They're actually engaging in open violence against Hindus on campus, Hindu Americans, which is unacceptable. How can they agree on Kashmir without taking input from the Indian American community or organizations like Hindu Pact or anybody else? What
right. So,
right do
so
they
you
have?
know, that's the point, right? Because from what we have heard, and we don't have uh, a complete affirmation of this, but from what we have heard, university has accepted 8 out of 10 demands, and the only two that they have not accepted so far are related to investment or divestment from Israel. So our our understanding at this time is that they have agreed to putting up the flags, including the whatever the Kashmiri flag is. We don't even know what that Kashmiri flag is, other than it's the flags that terrorists wave everywhere. We don't know what else. What is the flag of Kashmir, because Kashmir has been an integral part of India. So there's really no such thing as flag of occupied people of Kashmir or whatever. But this is, I have a theory, and I want to see what you think about it. I think that Rutgers, there's a lot of history, and I'm going to go through that history of Hindus at Rutgers, and Hindu Dharma at Rutgers, and Hindus at Rutgers, and the history is of full of Hindu hatred. I think that Rutgers, through its experience, has realized that um, Hindus generally are quite, you know, silent. They don't speak up for themselves as much, and they're not as vocal. They're not destructive. They're not occupiers of campus spaces, uh, and so they think that maybe by sacrificing the Hindus and Hindu students and faculty at the altar of these protesters would gain them sympathy and consent for doing some of the other things that they cannot change. If they had picked on any other community, like they were picked on Hindus and Kashmiris, that community would have been vociferously protesting at the doors of Rutgers right now. There would be an encampment on Rutgers right now by that community saying that, why did you bring us into this conversation when we have absolutely nothing to do with the current protests that are happening? But it's our silence, our acquiescence, that is leading to this, you know, Rutgers including us in that. So, your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. I think we have been very passive, even though we have been vocal. Okay, we have called out Rutgers Hindu phobia many, many times, and Rutgers have come always tried to shove it under the carpet. And but now I think we need to be more actively vociferous, right?
Yeah,
Actively showing up there. I would like to dip that very honestly. I would like to dip whatever this Kashmiri flag is in red and hang it outside
yeah,
because it represents the blood of Kashmiri Hindus. Okay. And this flag is not a clean flag at all. It is a flag of violent extremism and ethnic cleansing of Hindus in Kashmir. That is what that symbolizes. So we need to take to task Rutgers University through formal processes of complaints with New Jersey's Attorney General or the Department of Education, and they're a state-funded school. They're a state school, you
yeah.
know.
It's a really strange university, because when it comes to Hindu phobia and Hindu hatred, rather, more than Hindu phobia, when it comes to Hindu hatred, they always put up this, oh, we have First Amendment rights and we have academic freedom and all that. But as soon as there is anything that is, you know, uh, that people who don't like Hindus, they put up there. Those are the words they throw around. And when Hindus try to do any program, they get shut down at Rutgers. So I'll give you some examples, right? Uh, there, there's a professor, as you said, quite a Hindu hater. That professor is. So she said that she called Bhagwan Ram. She said, actually, she, as if she's quoting Ramayana. She said in during Agni Pariksha in Valmiki Ramayana, Mata Sita tells Bhagwan Ram that he is, now remember, Sita Mata is telling this to Sri Ram, that you are a misogynist, pig, and uncouth. Unbelievable. And she got away with it by calling it academic freedom. And then during the during the when during the incident where there's a golden deer, um, Mriga Maricha incident, as it's called, she accuses Bhagwan Lakshman of what? Of lusting after Mata Sita. And when she was challenged for the original verse, where was the source of original of this, of your translation? She said that, oh, this is a translation by Robert Goldberg, uh, from University of California at Berkeley. So when people contacted Professor Goldberg, looked up his work, contacted him, he sent out an email saying that such an inappropriate language and passed off as coming from Valmiki. Neither the great poet nor we, as the co-translator and himself, use anything like such a vulgar diction, and certainly Sita would have never used such a language to her husband, even in the midst of any emotional, if there is any emotional distress. And he said, nowhere in our translation of the passage do we use words such as you mentioned. And so she's made up these words, created a completely Hindu phobic rhetoric, and it's just
She
unbelievable.
never apologized, right? She
Never
never.
apologized. Never apologized. And the faculty and the student organizations and inside organizations, outside organizations, like Hindus for Human Rights, came to her defense. That and that is the I unbelievable. I want to show you another one of Rutgers, so you get a kind of sense of where. I think I'll do it this way. Show a better. Uh, okay, this shows a better one.
Yeah.
So let me you know let me go to the right slide. This is slide number 17. So let me go there. Okay, so this is this is, you can see this. There was a movie that came out called Kashmir Files, based on real stories, actual stories, news items that happened. And this, the freedom of speech just disappeared at the time. He was invited by a student group at Rutgers. There was a lot of protest by anti. Hindu groups, anti-India groups at Rutgers, and eventually this this show was cancelled.
Mhm. Yeah. um, why would they show it, right?
Yeah, really.
It goes against their narrative, and they gain nothing by showing a movie that shows them all up as hypocrites and real Hindu phobes, right?
Yeah,
They're only afraid of Islamophobia, but not afraid of Hindus at all. So we need to really make it painful for them, Ajay. And I mean, how we do it, there maybe we have different approaches, but they're
no, no.
not afraid
I
of
think
this.
all approaches must be tried, because this is not the way. I mean, you a major university, and Rutgers has thousands of
Mhm.
Hindu students,
Mhm. Yeah.
thousands.
Yes.
So it's not like, but again, Hindu students are interested in more in studies than they are in advocacy and other movements and all that. They're active groups. HSC is active, Hindu UI is active as campus groups, but
Mhm.
they are not the kind of students who go and occupy college portions of college campuses.
Mhm.
They are there to study primarily. They're not there for advocacy, right? There was
We
also.
should demand. Ajay, I'm thinking. Somebody said we should ask the Hindu students to boycott Rutgers. It's not possible. So same way that somebody say people are saying Jewish students should quit Columbia. Not possible. What we should do is demand a tuition refund every
Yeah,
time Rutgers crosses the line on Hindu phobia. Submit a bill, demand a bill, and especially when it comes time to tuition, put it in front of them, go to court. I feel like right now we have given them enough passes. No more passes. If they fly this Kashmir flag, I'd like to show up there and tear it down, honestly.
no, really. I mean, the problem, Sudha, is that this is a state university, and so from economic perspective and being close to your family perspective and all that, for students in New Jersey, it makes a lot of sense for the students to be at Rutgers, right? I mean,
Yes.
you can't really tell the Hindu students that don't go to your local university, because economically it really does make sense for them to go.
Yeah.
um, it's just that you know the university is absolutely insensitive to how they feel, how they think.
Yeah.
I want
Exactly.
to yeah, go ahead.
No, go. Let's move on to the next
Yeah,
slide.
I mean, here's another example of the kind of thesis that got published at Rutgers. It is an necropolitical Kashmir, and this is by Anmol Sahani. Anmol Sahani basically thinks that everyone in Kashmir is you know being persecuted and is living in a terrible state, and they're slowly dying off and things like that. Uh, so this is something that they allow, but Vivek Agnihotri they would not. This is
Yeah.
something that's considered to be scholarly work at Rutgers.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand what this necropolitics is. This all these new words keep popping up.
Well, I mean, that's I looked it up. It is actually not a bad idea to show our audience what necropolitical means. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'll do how about this? I'll do a real life search on uh, NECRO necropolitical. See, I looked it up.
Yeah.
It probably here we go, necropolitical. So I'm going to show you this. So I'm going to read out. Necropolitical is a socio-political theory that uses political and social power to dictate how people live and die. It is also political calculation of life and death. For example, the phrase collateral damage is associated with the U.S. bombing and things like that. So basically, it is like it is a socio-political theory of the use of social and political power to dictate how some people may live and how some people must die. So this guy is writing a thesis. Anmol Sahani is writing a thesis on how how the government of India basically will choose how some people may live or they must die.
I see. I think government of India, according to what I see online, okay, they're doing great in Kashmir. And talking to Kashmiri Muslims, they feel like it's the best time in Kashmir right now, with tourism booming, opportunities abounding, the greatest projects in India happening in Kashmir. So I don't think the necropolitics works exactly the way the socialist or whoever wants to say.
So I'm focused only on America, right? And I would tell
Yeah,
you that I from the American Hindu perspective, if you look in America and you look at all the Kashmiri Pandit organizations, you see that there are hundreds of thousands of Kashmiri Pandits have been driven out of the Kashmir Valley.
yeah.
They are staying in either abroad, but a lot of them, a whole bunch of them, are living still in really abhorrent conditions because they've given up their ancestral homes, and for decades they lived in refugee camps, uh, uncared for primarily, and they are going through the persecution that you cannot imagine. If someone has to really get a flavor of this, they should just go and see Kashmir Files, because it will give you some, at least some idea, not the whole scope, but at least give you some idea on how people were, how the Kashmiri Hindus have been treated in Kashmir by these terrorists.
Mhm.
And the people who had lived there for hundreds of years, thousands of years, have lost everything, right? So, and a lot of them live in America.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, if I try, and it's you can't really put yourself in anyone's shoes because you've not lived that life. But if you were to say that, okay, let us bring their perspective into this, really, how are you going to even tell them that, oh, you are the ones who are causing all the problems for the majority of the people over there?
Makes no sense. Absolutely, it makes no sense.
Sense, right?
But it's a rhetoric. And I'm wondering, can we put our own set of 10 demands in front of Rutgers? Let's work
Yeah,
on it,
I think we should.
Ajay.
I think we should. We absolutely should. And then Rutgers was always also at the forefront of this dismantling global Hindutva conference. And
Yes.
for those who don't know, Hindutva, we have always defined Hindutva as the essence of Hindu Dharma. Hindu plus Tattva is the Tattva. Tattva means essence. The Tattva of Hindu Dharma, or the essence of Hindu Dharma, is Hindutva. And they did a whole conference, basically was trying to eradicate Hindu Dharma and Hindu people. And there was a conference that took place, and Rutgers was a prominent endorser of this conference. Now when they went to university, so there's some of the Rutgers departments endorsed it. Rutgers University president just kind of washed his hands off and said, hey, I was not aware that they're going to use the university logo, but really no repercussions. If this
Yeah.
had been a conference against Islam or Catholicism or Judaism or Protestantism or anything else, there would be huge outcry that a state funded university where a substantial amount of Hindu taxpayer money is going in is
Yes.
actually trying to eliminate the essence of Hindu dharma.
Pandit Sharmaji from UK said this was like that dismantling global Hindutva conference was calling for the final solution on Hindus. Exactly what the Nazis said done. I agree with him. All of this stuff that's happening at Rutgers or any other university that conflates the Palestinian issue with the Kashmiri Hindu issue, not the trauma. Kashmiri Hindus as the oppressors is actually a huge, huge violence and violation of the Hindu American rights in this country.
Yeah, so you want to basically victimize the victims twice.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and now you come full circle, right? Now you say, okay, why are they doing this? And then you say, well, let's follow the money trail. Who is
yeah,
funding this?
yeah,
And then you say, oh, these are the same people who actually the funded the Kashmiri separatism, right? I mean, these are the people who
yeah.
funded the terrorism over there, and who funded the various movements in India that were against Hindus. These are the same sources of funds. They're the same people who take advantage of democracy and try to propagate a particular authoritarian ideology, or the same bunch of people. The and you know take and lead is always taken by the Indian leftists and the Marxists, and they are the ones that are the front. And then they try to, and so these are the same people who you see at Dismantle Global Hindutva Conference. These are the same people you see protesting the Kashmiri File movies, and these are the same people who you see when it comes to putting up a banner saying, oh, putting up a demand rather, saying that display the flag of occupied
some
Kashmir.
Kashmiri flag. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they will come up with a Kashmiri. We saw an inkling of this at Columbia when the somebody in Hindi was crying the song, the
yeah,
separatist song, the terrorist song
Azadi
of
part.
Azadi. That started with a song there, and now the demand is on a piece of paper, and looks
Right.
like Rutgers University has caved into blackmailers and anarchists, and
Yeah,
that's what I would call these people. And actually, U.S. government always says they don't negotiate with blackmailers, right? That's
yeah,
what U.S. government
yeah,
always says. And here is a U.S. university paid for by the tax payers, actually caving into blackmail. I
yeah.
just can't get my head around it.
In a handful, not even the majority. It's like small minority. It's just because they're vocal, just because they are violent, doesn't mean that everyone has to succumb to them. And they're not
And
even.
they demand, yeah, the demand to stop Hillel, and it could translate to Hindu Yuva, Hindu Yuva. What about the Islamic MSA, Muslim Student
Oh
Association?
no, that
That's
is covered
behind
by the
all
other
this.
demand because they want to actually appoint
I
uh,
know.
a special director to monitor that.
So
And
they
look,
want to
I mean,
affirmative action
no,
only for
look,
Muslims.
these are the same people who are, on one hand, they want the Islamophobia to be monitored. On the other hand, they're the same people who are vocally and vehemently against the Hindu phobia legislation in the U.S. Congress.
Yes,
Same
yes,
people.
yeah. Hindus for Human Rights is doing a lot of homework, by convincing our lawmakers not to support it for their reasons, right? And so, Hindus for Human Rights sounds like a Hindu organization, and Rutgers University might say, "See, Hindus are also supporting us." That's not true.
No,
Just
I
having
mean these
one
are people
Hindu
who
name, yeah, one Hindu name, Sunita Vishwanathan, doesn't make a whole organization Hindu, right?
I look, even if they're all practicing Hindu, doesn't make it right.
Yeah,
From my perspective, you're defined not by your name, not by what kind of spiritual practices, religious practices you have at home. It is not none of that. I mean, are you are you causing harm to your community? I'm not even saying you go out and perform seva.
yeah,
But if you're actively against the people who, because they were Hindus, are driven out of your home, for ancestral home for thousands of years, you're brutally persecuted, you're murdered, you're killed, you're put alive under in a sawmill, saw chain, and if you're not standing up for them, then neither are you standing up for the Hindu dharmic principles, nor you're standing up for the human rights.
yes,
And so I really don't, I don't want to say that you're a Hindu, you're not Hindu, you're human right, you're not human right. I don't want to apply any, I don't know what you are at home, I don't know what you're in. All I know is that here is a Hindu human right issue, and you never stood up for it.
yeah, yeah.
And it's still not too late. I mean, we welcome them if they want to advocate for Kashmiri Pandits. They're always welcome on this show, and they're welcome to join the movement to help the Kashmiri Pandits. And but they will have to start by telling uh, they would have to start by telling the Rutgers University that we do not agree with putting up this flag, and that would be in some ways a test for them.
I agree. And also, maybe Hindus for Human Rights can correct their stance on this by encouraging or sponsoring the showing of Kashmir files
Yeah,
on
I
campus.
mean that would be a good start, right? I mean, we are not, let's as I said, we don't want to call them non-Hindus, we don't want to call them non-human rights advocates. We want them to show up,
Yes.
and if they cannot show up, then they would have they would have reinforced the belief that is already there in the Hindu community, that these are the people who are not who are not advocates for Hindus or
Yeah.
human rights. All right. Anything else before we move on to our two regularly scheduled kind of segments? Three rather.
Yeah, no, I just want to ask all people watching, not just Hindus, everybody watching the show, to write to Rutgers University. You can
Yeah.
write to Rutgers University.
Yeah.
Okay. All of this information we shared is out there in public on social media, in news articles.
Yeah.
Quote those and write to Rutgers president, chancellors, and the New Jersey governor and the attorney general of the state, and express your outrage at the conflation of this Palestinian protest, and now including and expanding into India and Kashmir, which is completely should be out of scope in this discussion.
Unbelievable. That
Yeah,
just cannot stand. And we really hope you people take what you're saying seriously, and and really not allow this to happen. I mean, this cannot happen. Right. So with that, let's go to our. Uh, Let me go here and let me show the slide again. And this is the slide number 21. All right, Sudha. So this is just a quick announcement. We have been doing this, various programs around the Pran Pratishtha, or the consecration of the Ram Mandir, Ram Lala Mandir, Baby Ram Mandir at Ayodhya, which happened on January 22nd. We have this really nice program that is coming up. This is for the kids, and this is for the kids to, in some way participate. In the Ram Mandir kind of celebration. And so this is a a performing arts competition. It's a singing, solo dance, a group dance, and a cappella. And the four songs that have been picked, and the students can perform in any one of these four categories. And the four songs they have are Ram Ka Swagat, Raghupati Raghav, Tumak Chalat, and Payoji Maine. And there's if you just go to the website at bhp-america.org, you'll see how do you participate, or there's a tiny URL. If you want to go directly to the competition website, is tinyurl.com/Sri Ram Ka Swagat, and you will see that how you can participate in this particular competition. I think there are multiple. It's all age appropriate. The three age groups from 5 years to 9 years old, 10 to 15 years old, and 15 years and older. Uh, so there are these three age groups, and we invite everyone who has talent, or even if you don't have talent, just try, right? So, your talent or no talent, come and participate. I think it should be fun for everyone.
sounds
Um,
like a great program. Yeah.
yeah, and you would be amazed. I think there is a in the Rath Yatra video, in one of the ones that Bharat TV has got, there is a 5-year-old girl who is singing a bhajan. She's a fantastic job, no musical accompaniment, nothing, and she sings it with so much devotion and sings it with a really nice voice as a 5-year-old. And so I think kids can do amazing things.
We have to give opportunities, that's all.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this is one good competition.
Yeah.
The next is our regular segment on the Hindu Seva Charity Act of the Week. We are still kind of in the middle of this Ram Rath Yatra, and we can definitely use donations for it. It's we already covered about 15,000 miles so far. And so I want to ask you, because you were yesterday at a few mandirs, right?
Yes.
What are your experience?
My God, it's a life changing experience, I have to say. It was so emotional and wonderful to participate in the Rath Yatra with the VHPA folks. The local HSS teams also coordinated this, and we had it in a temple, which was a Hindu Jain temple. So that itself shows how, how welcoming we are, as communities of dharmic faiths together. And the way the community welcomed the team into the temple, and the puja and the sharing of akshat, I would say, I want to go to Ayodhya. Sorry, I haven't been there
You have
yet.
to now. You took a pledge, right, to go to
Yeah,
Ayodhya.
took a pledge. I will fulfill the pledge. Yes.
It will be a life-changing experience. I can tell you that. You know,
Yes.
you mentioned Jain, right? So I can tell you that Sri Ram and Mahavira both belong to the same lineage. So
Wow.
there's a direct connection between the two. So if
Ah,
you look at the lineage of Sri Ram, the Vanshaj, as we call it in Sanskrit, right? It's the
yeah.
same Vanshaj,
Wow.
different era, but same
Yeah.
Vanshaj.
Wonderful.
So and I've been to when I traveled to the yatra for about 18, 19 days, I went to several Hindu Jain temples. Uh,
Yeah.
and so yeah, the participants were from both there's really no there's not
Communities.
a
Yeah.
difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it's always great to see everyone together. Um, then finally, oh no, there's one more, right? We have one more. We got Hindu Seva Act of the week, and then we have the good news of the week. All right. So this is the continuing our theme on Sri Ram. This is a how our dharma stays alive in
Hmm.
diaspora, right? I mean, people will say,
Yeah.
oh, in America, people have just started migrating. Immigration started in 1800s, but
Hmm.
really, in large numbers, the immigration started in 1960s and 70s, and now it is still going on in large numbers because of H-1B and all that. So, yeah, of course, you'll see a lot of people coming to this, and a lot of people coming to Ram Yath Yatras and things like that, or going for Pran Pratishtha celebration in their temples and all that. But that's actually not true. Look, in Trinidad, the immigration of Hindus happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it happened at the time when there were no great communication tools between India and Trinidad. People went, people even lost touch with where they came from, right? I mean, a lot of people don't know where their ancestors, what village they came from, what state they came from. But here is the program, and I find it fascinating that they had this massive reading of Hanuman Chalisa, and 15,000 people showed up.
My God, look at that. You know, one thing I will tell you, I did talk to the Indo-Caribbean community once, and I know they came at least 150, 180 years ago as indentured labor. And a lot of times when they came, they brought their Ramacharita with them. That was the one thing they always brought, and they have kept their dharma together
Yeah.
even after all these years. They face tremendous pressures. And I think as the North American community, we need to all go do a pilgrimage to Trinidad, Tobago, Caribbean islands, and start a big collaborative effort. And I think at the VHPA level, you do. But I'm trying to say, as people to people, we just need to do a lot more with that community.
So you'll be glad to know that we have been doing these HMEC conferences, and one of the HMEC conferences was actually held in Caribbean,
Yeah.
and that was I couldn't make it that year, but that conference for people who went there, they found it very fulfilling because there are really beautiful temples there. People were
Yeah.
very welcoming, and it's just an overall great experience. And I mean, people are actually following the dharma, Hindu dharma, Sanatan dharma very closely, even though they
Yeah.
have left a long time ago.
And I've never been back many times, never been back to India.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So so that's the strength of Hindu dharma, right?
Yeah.
And finally, our who is the Hindu hater of the week? There we go. So Sudha, you have talked about this quite a bit, and you have said that, hey, look, people always say that Hindus are not scientific, and people who follow people who believe in the essence of Hindu dharma and try to propagate it, like people who propagate Hindutva and all that, or Hindu dharma, or people who are dharmic, are not scientific. They don't have scientific temper. And now Ramchandra Guha is, a historian of note and all that, and he's insinuating that Hindus and Hindutva is against the, are not, you know, don't have a scientific temper. What do you say to that?
I have to laugh first of all, but I have to say that idea that a faith is against science is a very it only applies to modern religions, okay? And Hinduism is not a modern religion. It's I would say it's a mother of religions, and everything about the Hindu dharma is rooted in a scientific and logical reasoning. So even the way we cook food, eat food, everything is has scientific background. So this is just a triggering statement. I think these people are trying to rile up the Hindus somehow. And I think we should refuse to be riled up because we know the truth. How did Hindus discover math? How did Hindus discover Ayurveda, yoga? Everything had to do with science behind it and what is good for the human body from a mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. These are not separated out into silos. So I would say these people are just, I don't know, their moment of
So,
fame, I
so
guess.
let me show you this. This is a book. I think with my screensaver, I don't know. It kind of blends into it.
Okay, now I can see. Yeah.
India's
Oh,
contribution to world thought and culture. Okay, see how big this book is.
yeah. He hasn't read it, I guess. This Kuha guy hasn't read
So,
it.
and for anyone who's interested, this is a huge volume. It has, I don't know, but it has like it has 710 pages, and it's published by Vivekanand Kendra. So it is Vivekanand Kendra Prakashan from Pondicherry, from Puducherry.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a Vivekanand Kendra publication, and meticulously gone through it. And maybe we can ask Vivekanand Kendra to send a copy to Ramchandra Guha or something.
Great idea. Why not?
Why not? Anyway, so that's our show for today. This is great conversation. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And we'll do it again next week. Okay.
Yes.
Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll see you next week. This is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact, Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective. It is a recent initiative of World Hindu Council of America, or VHPA. And as always, with me is Sudha Jagannathan, and I'm Ajay Shah. We'll see you guys next week. Namaste.